Hey there, everybody. Today I've got an interesting video for you today. The topic is how to load data into an S3 bucket using AWS, which is Amazon Web Service, and Python. Okay, so I promise this is going to be a short video. There's only a few things to, to go over here, and I don't actually have access to AWS at the moment. I used to have it. There was a problem with my accounts, and I lost access, and I didn't get it back. But as it turned out, some things changed for me. I didn't really need it after a while, so I discontinued the service, and it's totally fine. But when I had the service, I set this up. I thought it's a pretty cool way to get data into an S3 bucket. So let me take you through this. Okay, I can't run the code because again, I don't have access to AWS right now, but I'll take you through the concept. And as always, I'll save the code for you. I'll load it when I load the video so you have access to everything. You don't have to worry about all the details listed here. I have all the notes that fully explain how everything works. And just be aware, like your setup in your environment is going to be slightly different than mine, but the concept will be extremely similar, right? So you'll have to change, obviously, like your bucket name and a couple parameters, your login credentials, things like this. But overall, like 98 to 99% of this is going to be exactly the same as it is, as it is for me. It's going to be the same for you, okay? So the benefits of loading data into an S3 bucket or flexibility. Of course, you can screen scrape data. You can load data from a desktop, from a network drive, from an FTP folder, all kinds of sources, from a data lake, any kind of data source you can imagine into an S3 bucket. And then you can do your querying using Athena. You can do any kind of machine learning, data science, and kind of predictive analytics once the data is in your S3 bucket. Okay, so very flexible. Automation, of course, is a huge perk or a huge plus, I guess. So anything that can be automated should be automated. You eliminate the possibility of human error. You eliminate things that are tedious and boring and takes a lot of time and very trifling for people to deal with. Anything that could be automated should be automated. Of course, scalability. AWS S3 buckets are very highly scalable. You can load millions of records, probably hundreds of millions if you have that many, right? I don't know, too many data sets are that massive, but pretty much the sky's the limit, right? It scales up and it scales out to almost whatever you can imagine. Very cost effective. It does cost a few dollars, but overall the savings are massive, right? Whatever you pay for AWS, it's going to save you a lot of time, frustration, headaches, people doing tasks that are time consuming and prone to error. Once you have everything in the S3 bucket or some kind of Amazon environment, this could be very cost effective and very efficient, very streamlined, and very easy to work with the data. Integration with Python is almost seamless, right? You have access to all the libraries in Python. You can access anything in the S3 bucket, import, export, do any kind of pivots, aggregations, reporting, standardization, normalization, machine learning, data science, data cleaning, any kind of customization for your specific requirements is achievable too, right? So let's get into it. We have to import a couple of libraries here. Pandas, of course. Pandas is very ubiquitous. You use that pretty much for everything, kind of like NumPy. These are probably the most two common data science tools out there right now. So import requests, we are definitely going to import Boto3. Okay, that is for AWS. That's specific for AWS. And StringIO. These are inputs and outputs. Okay, you'll have a cache session. The cache is sort of loading data into an S3 bucket in chunks, right, or extracting it in chunks. So it goes into cache to make it easy and quick and easy to work with. Okay, I am in this case I am loading weather data into an S3 bucket. I'm starting with this long coordinates and hourly temperatures, okay? And I'm going to go to that URL with these parameters and make a response. I'm calling it API endpoint. And when I achieve a response of 200, that means it's good. Anything other than 200 response means it's bad, right? Something timed out, the data is not available, you don't have the right credentials or whatever the case may be. So as long as it's 200 response, that will deliver the request to hit that API endpoint. And you can go ahead and make your load into the, make your request to load data into the S3 bucket. Okay, so we're pulling out the hourly data from the API call, start and frequencies. Okay, so those are just some parameters to get the historical weather patterns or temperature. Okay, we're looking at temperature. Here is the data frame right here. That's what it looks like. So we have the date and then the temperatures. This looks like centigrade to me. I don't think that's 13 Fahrenheit. And we're going to create some credentials to log into AWS remotely. Okay, so when you are in AWS, if you log in through your web browser, that's a direct access, right? If you are logging in through Python, that's going to be a remote access, right? You're telling Python to go ahead and log into AWS on your behalf, but you're not logging in directly, right? There's two different ways to access it, remote and direct. Okay, so anytime you use Python to do the work for you, you can automate it, you can control it, you can schedule it. Tasks can run any time of the day or night, right? You can run it on a scheduler. You don't even have to be at your computer, and you can do your work. But you do have to have credentials to log into that system, right? So you'll log into the console. You'll see all the details here. Users, you have an IAM, Identity Access Manager. That's what that stands for. IAM is Identity Access Manager. You'll have that username. So again, a couple of these things will change specifically for you, but 95% of the stuff, maybe 98% is going to be exactly the same. You'll have your access key and your security credentials. You'll get that from your console. So that should be pretty obvious how to do that. If not, Google it or just read the documentation. I think it's pretty straightforward. And then we're going to go ahead and hit this S3 bucket. This is AWS S3. This is pretty standard. And the name of the bucket in my case is my buckets. Okay, so you'll name yours according to whatever convention you're using. And that is pretty much it. Okay, you're all set up. You have your access key down here and your secret access key. You'll need these three. And this is the Boto library that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. So you'll need to reference that. Once these are all set up, you have your bucket name. I am saving this as a CSV in the AWS S3 bucket, right? So this could be a CSV, it could be a Parquet, it could be XML, JSON. I like CSV files. It has rows and columns. It's pretty easy to read. But you can save it as any one of a number of different types of data, right? There's several types that you can save that. I like CSV, so that's how I'm saving it. And that is pretty much it. We're going to go ahead and make a put request. And that's it. A get request will get the data, and a put request will put it into the bucket. That's it. You have the bucket name, the file name, and then your credentials, and that's literally it. So let me save this. This is pretty much the end of the video. I promise. Short video and delivered. I will save this when I upload the video, so you have all the notes here. Again, a couple things are going to change pertaining to your specific credentials, your setup, and so on and so forth, but most of this is going to be exactly the same. Okay, so hopefully you gained some insight. Hopefully you picked up some new knowledge here today. That's my overall objective, to make these videos somewhat generic, but have a definite meaning and a definitive purpose to solving some common business problems, to answering data science questions, doing machine learning, deep learning, business intelligence, Python programming, topics like this. That's what I discussed. But I always try to make it general and generic so it's applicable to most people's use cases. Okay, thanks for your time today. Hopefully that was enlightening and somewhat informative. Thanks again for your time. Have a great day. Goodbye.